Welcome back to another Guilty Pleasure Theater Christmas Cringe edition, and oh boy do I've got something special for you. Please don't hate me.
It's called hentai, and it's art.
Blue Seagull is one of the lowest rated anime on my anime list, and it only took 2 seconds to understand why. Obviously, this has some of the lowest quality CG work you've ever seen, but who's to say that we're not jaded by the technological advancements of modern times? I mean, look at the production studio here. It seems to me that they're very proud of their work, as they're willing to do all of these odd morphing sequences in the beginning to show you who voiced all of the characters, and as the credits roll, you also get to see a behind-the-scenes footage in terms of the making of the movie. But more on that later on. Blue Seagull deserves some sort of an award for innovation in terms of how many of your senses it can offend at any one given time here. I mean, if this movie was any worse, you would be able to smell it, and believe me, this movie would probably smell a whole lot worse than the breath of a homeless man with gingivitis who just drank 3 liters of fermented goat piss out of a dead horse's asshole. Not only is the CG animation bad, but the regular animation is just as terrible, but it doesn't stop there. You've also got to deal with the voice acting.
Go to hell, yellow!
You've got to deal with the music that sounds purposefully recorded from a dirty VHS cassette. But you've also got to deal with such terrible translation that you have got no idea of what's even happening half the time. After the prideful opening, giving credit to all of the voice actors and making it seem like you're in for a great cinematic experience, they go straight for the jugular with a 2-minute long masturbation scene where a girl gets off on the vibrations of her motorcycle while wearing welding glasses? Is this supposed to be sexy? Oh, and get this, they can't decide where they want her ass or her knee because it literally shifts up and down her thigh several times. After the prolonged exposition, or ass position, get it? Because they don't know where to position her ass.
This is bad comedy.
Here the story seems to get rolling as 4 men exit the back of this SUV to head off to sneak into this Japanese castle. Wait, what? Go back a minute. So 4 men were in the back of an SUV. Which one of these dudes was sitting in somebody's lap? I bet it was him. So as these men break into the castle, they do so with guns blazing, and I guess they were hoping to distract you with thoughts of why a grown man would wear a bright pink t-shirt with green pants and orange boots to rob someone in the middle of the night, and I guess they were trying to use this to distract you from how bad the animation was. But seriously though, what's with that getup? Maybe the guy was thinking that because he's gonna be breaking into that castle in the middle of the night, maybe they're just gonna be pitch black rooms everywhere and nobody's gonna see what he's wearing anyways. Or maybe he's actually onto something. Maybe he's really fashion forward in his regular everyday life and he wears really nice suits and stuff all the time, so he assumes that if he goes and robs something, if somebody takes a picture or remembers what he was wearing, nobody would pin him because everybody would say, no, that can't be this guy, he would never wear clothes like that. Which gives me an idea. This is the part that's confusing. All they do is open up a door and see a Buddha statue, then we flash forward to be introduced to our protagonist, who for some reason is wearing the exact same outfit as Jubilee from the X-Men the Animated Series, minus the shades. In this scene we learn about... honestly, your guess is as good as mine here.
문제가 생겨서 조금 늦었네. 조금 전 마피아들이 오미까미 조직을 습격했어. 조직은 쑥밭이 되고 자네가 찾고 있는 물건은 그들의 손에 넘어가 버렸지.
Get ready, people, because the entire movie is going to be this way. And honestly, the majority of everything I know about this movie I picked up from context clues, because just about everything they say is incoherent because it's so poorly translated. After what the hell that guy just said, Jubilee is sent off to New York to obtain more information as to why he was being sent off to New York in the first place, because he's got no idea either. Did I mention how often you're going to be seeing these terrible CG transition sequences? Because it feels like they're around every corner here, and it really seems like the production studio took a lot of pride in these CG sequences because the camera angles are all over the place. They're zooming in, they're panning around, they're flying around. You see so many different angles here, and it's not necessary to see so many different angles like that, so you think that they really wanted to put that extra effort in there, to go that extra mile to show that they were really proud of what it is that they're making. And I guess, you know, it's easy to say that sitting here in 2017, but for 1994, maybe that was something. But I can't help but wonder how long it took them to render each one of those individual sequences, because I've done my fair share of 3D modeling. Like, I made a few of my openings before, and those are like 15 seconds long, and they would take me, with a modern computer, 10 hours to render some of those. So I can imagine some of these would probably take them several days. Holy hell, what the shit just happened to this guy's neck? Oh, there it is. Anyways, these are some of the villains, or honestly, I don't really know, but they are pissed because gangsters just raided them and stole some legendary sword. I mean, it's really hard to tell what's going on here when you get translations as good as this.
일개 마피아 패밀리가 감히 대오미까미의 본가를 어지럽히다니 이 지옥과 수모를 어떻게 할 것인가. 더군다나 어렵게 빼내온 조선의 보검을 뺏겼다. 피는 피로 갚는다.
It's been about 10 minutes. You know what we haven't seen in a while? A woman masturbating. Ugh, never mind, this is not what you think. But if you guessed that she was being eaten out by a dog in her sleep, then you're absolutely right. This woman literally has no reason to exist, yet another example of something in this movie that they could have removed altogether and it would have been better for it, because she adds nothing to the story. The only reason why she's here is to, one, fill up time, two, because she oversees this car show that coincidentally is taking place within the same building that the final fight's going to be in, and they also try and shoehorn her into this love triangle between Joshua and Jubilee, and the thing is, it doesn't work because Jubilee totally ignores her every chance he gets. Oh yeah, I forgot, you missed out on two shitty CG transition sequences before and after the pointless restaurant scene, and now we're at a strip club. Now the weird thing about the strip club here, in fact the weird thing about the entire movie, is that I feel like the people animating it have no idea of what a female figure should look like, because there are two different types of figures that you see here. One, you've got the type of girls who their body is influenced from a man's body, where they've got these giant shoulders going on and everything's so broad up there, and then you're in the strip club here and you've got some of the naked women, and it seems like their body shape was influenced from, I guess, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the girl in that movie there. And it's so weird in the strip club here because they will get naked, and you could tell, like, these people, they either don't know how to draw a naked woman or they have never seen one, because there's some pretty wild stuff going on here, including, I can't show you clips of this, but if you want to follow along, the movie is on YouTube in full, and it happens around 14 minutes in, but there's a woman there who, one of the patrons of the strip club gets a little bit fresh with her, and her titties kind of jut out, and they start like wiggling all over the place and smacking the guy upside the head. That is not biologically possible, but I guess that's what you get when you're talking about 1990s South Korean anime. The reason for us being in the strip club is that Jubilee is there meeting with an informant to discover why he's actually in New York in the first place, and it's here that he learns that the sacred sword was stolen, but this conversation is ultimately cut short due to a bar fight that happens out of nowhere. So the bar fight that breaks out only happens because Jubilee is Asian, but he shows them a thing or two by punching one halfway across the room. Because this fight stirs up enough of a commotion, this prompts the cornball gangsta Alfonso to come over and teach everyone the futility of gun-free zones. I guess the creators of this anime also think that you can just get away with murder over here in the States, considering that Alfonso just murdered 2 people in cold blood right in front of Jubilee, and he just lets them go, but not before giving him a few gems of advice.
예의가 없잖아. 옐로우들은 생명의 은인에게 인사도 안 하나? 고맙소.
Yeah, so Yellow, that's actually not a nickname that he earned by wearing a big yellow jacket all the time. That's actually one of the film's many attempts at creating racial slurs, but due to the poor translation, it just comes out kind of weird like that. But enough about that. You got some more CG to watch. Next, Jubilee meets with his supposed lady friend, Joshua, in front of a coffee shop, where there's even more racial slurs from people who just can't mind their own business. None of that matters though, because they both head back to Joshua's apartment for some sweet, sweet lovin'. And that starts by having a zoom-in shot on Jubilee's ass for some reason.
Men's asses!
Next up, we've got yet another totally useless scene with a totally useless character. I'm just gonna call her Meg from now on. So Meg gets invited out to a date, or what she thinks is a date, and she sits down with a guy just to find out that it's actually more of a business proposal because he's got some sort of PR firm and he feels like his business skills can be something that she could use to help her out in her car show that she's got going on, which none of this stuff has any connection to the story really. And speaking of cars, you know where we're going. And yet another totally useless scene where this woman has another sex fantasy. At least this time, there's no dog under the table. Up next, we see Joshua getting caught looking through secret files. Do you know how I know they're secret? I'll give you two guesses. At this point in the movie, the plot progression is scrambled and characters are just jumping from one place to the other and it's hard to keep track of. And I know this is going to sound like an odd complaint coming from me, but at least in the first half of the movie, we knew where characters are going because everything was animated in CG. We knew about all this stuff. So Jubilee walks into another restaurant and is followed into the restroom by Alfonso, where we see this guy who's trying to hide the fact that he's taken a cheeky wank in public, and Alfonso's got to ruin all the fun by shooting up the place and grazing Jubilee's arm in the process. I know the dude is scared, but you don't have to put your head in the urinal like that. Oh, you're just beaten off there too. Somehow or another, Alfonso gets away without a single person in the entire restaurant calling the police and manages to make his way to Joshua's apartment to kidnap her. Conveniently enough for Jubilee, he happened to be on the phone with him at the time of her kidnapping, or else he wouldn't have known. So in order for her to rescue her, he goes in search of Joshua's brother. Holy shit, this is what they think black people look like. Also conveniently enough for Jubilee, Joshua's brother sells a bunch of guns, which they're gonna need in order to get her back. The only problem here is that I don't think Jubilee has actually shot a gun before. Actually, I don't think either of them have shot a gun before, because why else are they driving out to the middle of the desert just to shoot a gun? Do they think they're going to create a giant explosion or something? I mean, look at all of this empty land that they're driving by here. Can't they just get out and shoot it a couple of times there? And why does this shitty CG driving scene look like it was inspired by some of the PS1 Final Fantasy games? You know, the ones where you drive around in between the cities and everything is flat except for the mountains and the car? So now that they're all geared up and ready to kick some ass, it's about time I answer this very important question that I know all of you have been asking so far, which is, Bob, tell us more about the car show. We really want to learn about the car show. What, that's not what you were asking? Too bad. Here's the car show. Oh, why does this sound so bad? This sounds like they purposefully ripped the audio from this warped old VHS cassette that's got all the grain and everything going on it. Bear with me, people, because this next scene will assault your senses far worse than anything this film has done so far. Way worse. This next scene is a 15-minute hodgepodge of various scenes being thrown together. 1, we have Jubilee fighting his way through the building. 2, we have Alfonso raping the hell out of Joshua. 3, we have this terribly animated CG helicopter that slowly circles the building. over and over, getting into a helicopter fight with yet another terribly animated CG helicopter. Plus, on top of that, there are times when Alfonso speaks this terrible English. The CG scenes here are just as bad as you remember them being, but there's much more of them here. They're absolutely longer. The VHS cassette warped, distorted background music is back, and it plays throughout everything now, and I feel like they're actually doing it on purpose because the background music wasn't like that until the car show, and I feel like maybe somebody there just learned how to do it for that one scene, and they were like, hey, I'm gonna do this for the rest of the movie because the voice acting is not distorted in the same way the background music is, so it seems like they're purposefully doing it that way. Speaking of helicopters, they forget if the pilot of one of the helicopters here should have a mustache or not because, well, you can see this one for yourself here. And secondly, what's up with this guy's hair? It seems like they have yet another X-Men influence here with a wig that looks like something Rogue would wear in X-Men the animated series. It feels like we're forgetting something. Something very important. Oh, Joshua is getting raped. I wonder what happened with that.
정말이야. 너 같은 년을 내가 이제서 만나다니. 너무 노려보지 말라고. 내가 민망하잖아.
Well, at least he didn't shoot her. Damn it.
아깝군. 정말 끝내주는 가슴이었는데 말이야.
Come on, now you're just being an asshole. Getting back to Jubilee, he eventually meets up with Alfonso, where the fight begins.
Goodbye. 진정한 고통이 어떤 것인지 알게 해주지. 고통? 이름이 그런 말을 할 자격 있나?
Oh yeah, and then there's also this gem of a maneuver right here where Alfonso gets German suplexed and then kicked mid-air at the exact same time. Now, as odd as that may be, there's nothing that can top this next bit right here.
이젠 알았나? 진정한 실력과 행운의 차이를?
Well, I guess that's that. Time for you to roll those credits so I can go edit this damn video.
너를 이꼴로 만들어 놓더니 기다려라 옐로우. 이놈을 소막을 내서.
What? Are you serious? This guy got stabbed in his eye socket with enough force to eject him through a window, and as he was falling, he had enough time to take his necktie off, tie it around his bleeding eye socket, around his head, and then climb straight up a building that's walls are made out of glass, barehanded. Well, I guess this would be part 2 of the duel here, and I'm sure the audience is actually becoming pretty intense, awaiting that final moment when Jubilee extracts sweet, sweet vengeance for his raped and murdered girlfriend.
이리 내놔.
누구신진 몰라도
Oh yeah, and did I mention that between all of this happening, it was revealed that Jubilee is actually the descendant of Buddha because a giant gold Buddha statue started glowing and talking to him and then making a magical sword materialize in front of him out of thin air? From here, they head back to the room Joshua was held captive in for this really touching and sad moment when they see her dead body. And here we have Meg onlooking and contemplating why she's even in the movie in the first place. The funny thing about this movie and how revolting it was with the rape scenes and the murder scenes and all the racism and the terrible CG, the terrible audio, terrible animation and all this, the ending credits are actually very wholesome. They've got this wholesome Korean song playing, showing how hard the production studio was at work in creating this film, and then you can look around the office and see several posters of this movie that make it out to be as if it was supposed to be some sort of a romance film. On a side note, I can't help but notice how careful they are with the raw footage. I mean, this has probably got nothing to do with how dirty the picture quality looks in some scenes. And how about we admire their clean, pristine work environment? And there's also this guy who's got a cigarette in his mouth and it looks like he's got another one in his hand. Take a look at these people pretending to oversee 3D animation when we all know good and well that computers back in 1994 couldn't edit real-time, pre-rendered 3D animation like that. And then I think the icing on the cake is these guys right here who are pretending to jump up and down in excitement over the film like they totally weren't told to do that from their bosses. So I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and if not, I hope this video at least put a smile on your face. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button, and if you'd like to help support the channel, then check out the Patreon, because I watch this movie with my viewers. We watch anime 4 days a week over there, and that is a goal that is only $5 a month to achieve, and it's a really awesome community. So if you'd like to help support the channel and join us, watch some anime with us, head on over to Patreon. Thank you all for watching. Have a Merry Christmas.